Allison.
Hello,
Keith.
Andy.
Hi.
Hello.
My God, this is like old home week.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. It was a bit warm. I've been sitting out in the sunshine.
And Dee Ennis is with us also, but she had to, for the record, had to leave for an emergency meeting at 12:30 and is due to come back, but
We
we're
are
not
off
gonna.
executive session.
Yeah. Okay.
And we're going back to the other part of the agenda where special people to be heard have shown up, so.
Well-
You had a press conference? Emergency press
Actually,
conference?
what I did was I went through the groundbreaking for the new TDX project out at the old National Guard Armory. $100 million project that they're starting. It's gonna be pretty incredible. when
Out
it's
there,
all finished.
off of Spinard?
Spinard and
Yeah, Jewel Lake.
International,
Yeah,
yeah, Jewel
they
Lake
come together, yeah.
International, really. Old Coast End, they're gonna tear that down, build all new. They're building a parking garage for 1,000 cars that looks like the Spruce Goose, an airplane. It's,
Really?
yeah, it's gonna transform that part of town, no question about it.
That corner needed some help.
Oh, yeah, it does, so. And the fire station's moving out of there, I think, within the week. And they'll be able to demo the old armory, so it's all coming down. It'll be good. But on the topic, what I have suggested, and I think what you want to do is get your thoughts together. I advised Adam that when he holds the ethics committee, the Assembly Ethics Committee on Monday, that he start out by letting you voice the concern, the issue you're dealing with. And he's also going to probably ask you, what is your suggestion for our solution to this issue? We all realize that it presents a real problem for you just for the sheer number that are reported. And quite honestly, you know, you probably wonder, by the same token, how many are not reported.
Well,
You know.
we do have, which we couldn't, you were out last week, and the other week we tried to find that file. You had an intern do a file a couple of years ago, 3-4 years ago.
That was Dee.
Was it D? I apologize, I thought it was. Okay, but we do have some information that shows what schools aren't reporting.
It's inevitable, and I think the irony to it is the things that people are really concerned about in regards to ethics, about somebody giving a gift and in exchange for that, they get consideration with their kids' grades in school. The reality of that is the way that your grades are posted every day now, it's really pretty difficult for a teacher to be able to do that particular thing, because any parent can go online and find out how their kids are doing and what their grade point average is any day. So if suddenly a student went from an F to a D or a C, or something that was real obvious, you know, it could be noticeable. But regardless of that, it's also the reality, you know, just speaking honestly amongst ourselves, if you've got a teacher that's willing to accept a gift in exchange for a grade change, they're certainly not going to report that to you anyway. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So in the consideration that I've been running through my mind, I think what we need to do is maybe take a look at how we've got that code written. $50 may be too low. Maybe it needs to be 100. Maybe, we have no idea. You guys have dealt with this a whole lot more than we have, but give us an idea about what, under these particular circumstances. But where we got the teacher that's received the $2,000 in order to be able to go to an education program,
Right here.
you know, use that in teaching students. You know, I don't know how we would end up drafting it. It's the kind of stuff that gives Julia gray hairs, although she's doing a pretty good job of dealing with that. I
Not
know.
too much, so they're coming through,
But, you know, we may need to expand in code. These are things that occur that should be given special consideration. And if you're receiving the money under this circumstance, it's not necessary to report it. or if they do report it, you don't have an obligation to do any follow-up. It's just notice is made of it, because it seems to me that what you're trying to do is eliminate, I mean, right now you have an obligation, if you get 300 of these, you gotta respond to all 300 of them in some form or fashion and make a decision.
Well, the reality is, and the pile here that I showed you know, the other day, we've got a bunch of them this time. A lot of them are from groups of parents, PTAs, BPTs,
They don't
Teacher of the
even
Year,
qualify.
and we just,
They don't need to be
we don't
qualified.
do anything with them.
Right.
Because they are from a group,
Mhm.
or, and whatnot, and we look, especially the PTA ones,
Mhm.
you know, it's the individuals with the airline tickets, the John and Joe, the coach purses, the
Right.
scholarships. That's where we've mostly dealt our, spent our time.
Have you given any consideration to how you feel those should be handled? Either in code or otherwise?
Well,
Consideration, yes, there has been consideration. I don't know that we've come up with any.
we haven't come up with a solution. I don't
We
think.
send a letter right now,
Mm-hmm.
kind of a warning letter.
Right.
That's all that we've been doing,
But
that I'm aware of.
Our code allows us to get a lot more strict, to the point of saying you have to give it back. Or it can, I believe it can go to the HR department. But,
Yeah, there's
you
a
know,
lot of, there's a lot of flexibility to allow the board to figure out a remedy on how that should be done. And so, you know, part of the challenge and sort of dilemma is that no matter how grades are posted, there should be a way for the scholarship to be anonymous, or to go through you know, somebody other than the person, just like we do procurement here. You know, there's sort of a wall, so that there isn't an integrity. I mean, one of the things that Keith mentioned is, you know, you have a legacy, so this kid that year, that teacher gets a scholarship, and then the next year the kid goes on to another teacher, and I mean, it's just, there's a direct, link
Mm-hmm.
So is that
associated with
is
that
that, yeah,
kid.
is that child going to get special attention from the next year's teacher based on how last year's teacher was treated? And, you know, this, I don't know anything about this Waldorf school where this person's getting training, but apparently the people at the assembly knew about it, or the school district. And that's going to help their professional career, which the more training they get, the more pay they get. So, you know, that there is some personal benefit to it, not just the fact that they're having more training to be able to be a better teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I don't know what the committee's opinion, how we're gonna deal with that one, cause it's one of the bigger ones we have to deal with.
I think what you're going to find when you go into this meeting, the ethics committee is gonna be very receptive to what they can do, you know, to make your job easier to handle, and hopefully make some of these decisions where they're not as complicated. The one thing that I find out about law is the more stringent you try to make it, the more difficult it becomes. So, you know, I never even thought about what you were talking about it actually being done in a manner that it's anonymous. The teacher doesn't know who it came from. And I understand what you're saying, if you got a student moving through the system and 6 years in a row, that teacher happens to receive X.
Well, I suppose we
And
put
then
that.
other parents feel like their kid isn't getting enough attention because they're not in a financial position to comp airline tickets, to
Right.
give coach purses, to give training, and so it creates an unlevel playing field. I mean, it's why.
But part of the problem, well, actually the biggest problem is there's an impression that we're after the teachers. It's not the teachers. As I was trying to make the point at the meeting the other day, it's the parents and educating the parents. Listen, you know, we appreciate the fact that you're trying to help the teachers out, but by doing that, you're putting the teacher into a very uncomfortable position.
Right.
And then
The
leave
teacher
it to the
disclosed it.
school district to manage how they're gonna do it, as long as it has some kind of incidences besides just disclosure. The issue that faced the assembly and the school board in 2007, when this was passed, and from 2005 and
Mhm.
before, was that the interpretation on the part of the school district in their guidance under code was that if you disclose it, there's no conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's not true. Disclosure doesn't erase the conflict, and so some things need to be managed, and I think what you said, some different categories of gifting that is reported a different way, but it really, the school board, one of the things that the assembly wanted to do initially, Ernie, was with teachers, and Ken Stout was real strong on this. He wanted to make sure that we didn't end up with teachers who had off-teaching jobs that didn't meet the bulletin board test of you know, just reasonability. And so on the municipal employee, the city hall side of things, you have to have your supervisor's permission if you're gonna have a second job, because if you're a bus driver, maybe we don't want you moonlighting on, you know, and being, I mean, there has to be some, not just the subject matter, but the hours, and there can be all kinds of competition that with hours and jobs that put, you know, things first. So there were things that were initiated there for that, and then Carol Como came in and said, well, we, you know, you have your HR department, and that's helping you with these different things. She said, just on ours, we'll work with it for that kind of conflict, and the assembly said, okay. On gifting, the assembly said that they had to meet, you know, this code, so they came in and said, well, the only thing we have are the gifts to parents, you know, and the assembly asked them, what kind of gifts? They said, oh, you know, just token gifts, you know, the teacher's apple, you know, gift card, something like that, and the school board came up with the $50 limit, but somehow it got lost in the roll down, and so there needs to be some ownership on the part of the school board. And
There'll be 2 school board members in the meeting on Monday that are gonna attend. Ted, you had something to say.
Yeah, well, you know, and with the school teachers, you know, they have the mindset that accepting your gift is okay, but if it's over $50, we have to fill out this paperwork. You know, they don't realize. And I like your idea that said maybe we need to raise that. Like, we get a lot from PTA, $100 reimbursement for classroom supplies.
Mhm.
You know, we could raise that and put, that's the limit. Anything above that has to have prior approval, like a scholarship, like whatever. And so you don't, and that's gonna eliminate 90% of
What
these.
you do with. I would tell you, Ted, that's exactly what the ethics committee is gonna look for, is somebody that brings them a solution, not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And we've discussed, you're talking about, one of your things is to get the principal to sign off and get prior approval.
Right.
And, well, it puts the onus back on to, you know, the principal, you know, into that school.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's, and with respect to the scholarship, when we get to that, there were other mechanisms that could have been handled that way, and it could have been done on an anonymous nature. You know, if somebody really felt the teacher was that good, there were other ways to handle that rather than just about giving cash towards the scholarship. And I saw that there was people kind of agreed when I mentioned that at the combined meeting a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't know of anybody that wants to penalize teachers in any form or fashion. I mean, we all absolutely appreciate what they do for our kids and what they do for our community. But what we wanna do is to come up with a way to deal with this, that's gonna take some load off of you, as well as you having to sit there and go through all of these and make some of these specific decisions. So you will find, I think, that the Ethics Committee is gonna be very receptive to whatever solution you come up with this, and be willing to go into code and take care of that for you.
Are there, other code changes that will be coming,
There
to
were
the-
some, but some, most of them don't have anything to do with the school district.
Mhm.
With respect to, for an example, allowing, I've mentioned it to Chairman Hall, the allowing the ombudsman to bring something directly, when sometimes it's very difficult, as in one of our cases where the person backed out, because they would have had to come public in their small community for that little election area that they're part of. It would have been better if the ombudsman could have presented that case. Right now, you know, it's the city clerk and the city attorney, I believe, who can bring cases, but a lot of people go to the ombudsman.
Mm-hmm.
And there has been in the past where it was referred to the clerk's office and the previous clerk, and they wouldn't bring it forward, as I understand. And I know, Ombudsman Hess, is that his last name?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Darryl?
Darryl is indicated that he would like to see that happen too, and we need to get our list together from D and bring that, our
Right, cause I think that
amendment list.
even if you don't have the code changes done yet, it's an opportunity to, with just as the election board did, is that they gave a presentation to the same committee and said, these are sort of bullet changes, you know, just in point that we think after the election are sort of our list, and then the municipal attorney took that in and will be doing a draft and then rolling it back out. And so it might be a good opportunity on Monday to have that list, and then have the one that the ones that you're specifically talking about here, but then the Ethics and Election Board knows what's coming and can give you some feedback, cause you know, we have a list, we'll pick off the low-hanging fruit first, and everybody says, yeah, and then Dee and I'll help draft that, take it back here first, but
Mhm.
then they've had some input in
Right,
it, so
and-
that then when it goes to the assembly, it'll, you know, referral to them, or.
And like I said, Dee's been keeping a list, and I can think of 2 or 3 things off the top of my head, but I'd rather refer to the list. But it
Mhm.
wasn't, you know, I couldn't, of course, bring it up to the last meeting, we only had 10 minutes, and it wasn't appropriate for that
school
meeting.
board.
It wasn't
All right.
school.
School board anyway.
You handled that perfectly at that meeting, by the way.
The joint.
The joint
I had a
meeting.
lot of coaching.
Well, it couldn't have been better, because the last thing you wanted to do is engage a body of that size all laying there and ideas out, and what you got was everybody agreed, this is an issue that we need to address, and we don't wanna penalize teachers. We wanna come up with something here that is good for the community, and that's gonna be the whole goal in doing this, so we'll get it worked out. But Julia's pretty well laid it out. You come in with the issues that need to be addressed, solutions that you may see. We'll give it to legal, they'll get it redrafted, bring it back. You'll get a chance to review it, the ethics committee would see it, and then it would just move forward to the body for approval. And I don't see a problem with accomplishing that, being able to do it relatively quickly.
Now, is this something that would involve debate on the floor, or the committee recommends it and comes on the consent agenda?
Oh, the committee recommended, you may have some discussion on it in there, but typically on an item like this, there would probably be very little discussion, because honestly, what we would do with this is a work session with the body prior to it going in. So if there were, you know, concerns, they typically get expressed at the work session.
But all ordinance changes require the public hearing in front of the assembly.
Yeah. But
you wanna focus the issues by having a work session ahead of time, so.
Yes, I don't wanna give too large a list. I think we do have some priority items, I think, that we wanted to work.
yeah,
Yeah, you could just whack off your top 5 and then go from there.
Whatever you're comfortable with, Keith. You know?
Well, that, yeah, and what committees is comfortable with, I'm not
Right.
a committee of one.
Yeah.
I'm the longest serving member currently because our Terry's not here, but,
Yeah.
he's our chair emeritus, but he's got, some personal business he has to attend to today. Well, great, I'm looking forward to the meeting next Monday.
Monday, and I will not be at that meeting, and on deliberate that I'm not there, but Adam will do a good job of handling it, but, you're gonna have, Cameron and, Catherine on the school board. And the representatives from the ethics committee. But you go give us your solutions.
So that will, you're talking about Bill Starr and Adam.
Adam will be there, I think Paul Horniman is on that committee. I don't remember the other names, there's typically 3, so it could be Adam, Paul, and Bill. Yeah.
And then also 3 school districts.
Just 2.
There's just 2 from the school
2 from
board
the school
will be
district,
there,
so
and there
it'll
may
be
be
5.
somebody, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
this is a long way, we've been working towards trying to engage the school board. And I know we had a combined meeting several years ago upstairs in the 8th floor. But nothing really came up that one, that was a couple chair people ago.
Yeah.
Nothing really came of that one, but, so I appreciate the fact that we're able to move forward and possibly get some stuff done.
Well, I promise you something will come of this, I can guarantee that. So, you present it, we'll come up with it, and, I'm gonna throw in, I don't know how long your list is, but I would encourage you, don't limit yourself to 5 if you've got 10 that are major. If we're gonna fix it, let's fix it. So.
Well, it's, like I said, I'd like to have Dee bring it, bring the list.
Yeah.
And subject to our time constraints, be able to go through it and decide what's important. I believe, I've asked Ted if he was available, mostly because of his prior, assembly experience.
So
And I
we
didn't-
are
I haven't
saying
had a
you're
chance to
getting
ask you
old,
if
Ted,
were-
you got depth of
Terry
knowledge.
won't be able to be there.
This is for a meeting on Monday?
Yes, we'll be right here at 11:30, not noon.
Right.
So,
Great,
well, I appreciate you coming in.
no problem. We will do this. We won't give you, just sit and meet with you and disappear. I promise you, I won't let Adam do that. Julia will be there. She'll see to it that we go through the due process and we'll get it worked out.
Yeah, and Julia, make sure we do, between that and Dee,
Yep.
we get pulled
Tough
back.
taskmaster.
Yeah, you got a tough job to do, find a woman to do it. Okay, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ernie, thank
You bet, take care.
All right.
Have a meeting at 1.
Okay.
You guys just have so many meetings. We may have to send Dee back to get her list, cause I think it's important that we,
Yeah, this is coming up on Monday.
and unless we wanna have another meeting in between time, it's gonna be important to do that. And like I said, I hadn't had a opportunity to talk to
Yeah.
you about it, cause, not knowing what your schedule was. I had Terry all lined out to do it, and then today, that all kinda fell apart.
I'd be lost without this. I have time. Monday. This coming on 24th?
Yes, at 11:30 right here, 11:30 to 1:30, I believe is what it is.
And it's, and tell me again the purpose of the meeting?
For code revision.
Okay.
That's right, so what happens is that just organizationally, the assembly has different standing committees. One of them is public safety, so certain things go into the public safety committee before they, before they hit the assembly, cause then the public safety chair can schedule a work session. And so the ethics and elections, we used to have a separate elections and ethics committee, but they combined them last year. And so after this election, the election commission, which is a body's, something like, this body, but it has to do with election, the election commission set up a work session, meeting with the, Adams Committee to do a sort of rollout of their postmortem on the election, on this most recent one, and sort of where they thought they needed to have code changes. And so, this one, it isn't assembly, so you can do it in work session. The assembly can do it in a work session of the whole body, or they can do it in an advertised committee meeting of the election and ethics committee. And so that one that the election committee did was just scheduled, cause it was right after the election and everybody wanted to, they just did it as the whole committee. Here, I mean, as the whole assembly work session. Here, what, as I understand this, is it's the Elections and Ethics Committee has been convened for the purpose of working on, or from what Ernie said, listening to the issue and potential solutions for ASD matters and for other issues while you have their attention that you think you might need a code change. And so rather than working the code change there, it's sort of a heads up to that committee, so that, because then what will happen is Dee and I'll crank out your code changes, they'll come back to you to make sure that this board endorses that they reflect what you're worried about, and then it can get, a couple of things can happen. It can get introduced as an ordinance sponsored by the chair and refer to a work session, or we can do it in a draft, just like we'd be doing it for you, and schedule a work session of the assembly to then work out any bugs or get all that stuff in a public meeting that's just sort of their question Q&A and have more explanation about it. Then we can tinker with it and then introduce it, and then at that point it would have maybe the chair of the ethics committee sponsoring it, and then it has to be scheduled. Any code changes require public hearing, but you've done the homework with the assembly. So that's sort of how, it's always recommended to engage the specialty committee, for if there's an advisory or an adjudicatory committee of public citizens like yourself, then it starts there. But then to engage it in stages before it gets to the full assembly, so that you don't have chaos there.
Remember the class, how a law becomes a law?
Okay.
I don't think they'll make up a song about it though.
So I didn't have, what else is on your agenda today?
Today, well, we have to finish dealing with our first issues that we had, and there's really not much other than we got a whole bunch of disclosures to go through.
Did we finish our discussion are we gonna pick up our discussion again when Dee gets back? Our executive session discussion? We didn't finish that, did we?
We didn't completely finish it because we were interrupted.
No. I think we should go back and finish that first, and then.
Do we wanna wait?
Do we wanna wait for Dee to come back though?
I'm wondering whether we can let you, do you need?
Well, yeah, I have the same
Yeah.
meeting that he has. We had conflicting
Right.
meetings, so
do we need to keep Julie around?
I don't believe, I appreciate that you're here,
Thank
but I
you.
don't think so.
No worries,
I
yeah.
think we can let you go.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be at that meeting tonight, by the way, because
Oh.
I'm teaching a college class tonight on ethics of all things.
All right,
Yeah.
Keith, moving forward.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
You bet, and
Always
just tell
appreciate
Dee that she can give me
Sure.
a call, I can help you crank out a list to circulate by email. I mean, Monday's coming up on
Yeah, I
us
know.
right away,
Well, I
so
know.
I'm kinda a little worried about that, so.
Yeah.
But I think that the strategy would be, if you have bullets for that meeting, and to avoid, a lot of discussion there on those items. And then but you're giving them a heads, you're gonna, sort of like you're gonna tell them what you're gonna tell them, and then you're gonna tell them, and then you're gonna tell them what you told them, right?
Mhm.
So this would be tell them what you're gonna tell them, we're gonna come forward, then Dee and I can crank out
Mhm.
the actual language from that bullet list, instead of having you guys hassle with that, and then you can tinker with it and change it, but it's just gonna be a lot more efficient if she
So
and I
much
get
more
together
efficient.
and draft, that's what I do,
Absolutely.
and she knows how to do resolutions,
Right.
and
Mhm.
so, cause she worked over there, but I mean, she knows it's
Get
no point
resolved.
you guys struggling,
No,
even
we would spend hours
attorneys,
tinkering,
it's
yeah.
like a specialty, I can't draw up a will, but boy, I can
Right.
draw up an ordinance,
No, I-
and so, it's that, so then you have a draft to tinker with, and you go, no, that's not what we said, Julia,
Right.
well,
That's fine.
we'll
Let's
fix
do
it,
that.
Just add a little together.
Ted's familiar with that,
Yeah.
so that's what, and Dee and I can, she can be there and
Sure.
we can do it together in my office, but that we don't have to do for
No.
Monday,
not
but it
for
sounded
Monday.
to me, what I'm a little concerned about, what I wanna do about Monday
There's
is.
possible solutions.
The possible solution to the ASD thing, cause I think there's naivete on, I think the concern is not to come out against teachers,
Right.
Well, Keith and I were at a at a Rotary meeting.
Mhm.
Were you there when Natasha stood up and said, well, the problem is teachers? Were you
When she
there?
was running for office?
No, maybe you missed that meeting,
I missed 3 in a row. I
This
was off.
month, she was there and Andy wasn't. And they were doing some kind of presentation and people had questions about something, and so she answered, she says, well, the problem is the teachers' benefits and their salaries. That's where the money goes. And it was like, and so somebody in our group, said, well, I think it was Ross said, well, is anybody here to speak for Andy, to give kind of a balance in there, but I think that sort of there's, it was surprising to have it just come out like that
Well, actually,
in
and
a
I reached out
forum,
to
so,
Andy and he's out of town.
Yeah,
Cause I wanted to give him a heads up on this one disclosure because it's gonna come to him.
yeah,
Since those are public documents and I
Yeah.
have no problem doing that, but
Yeah.
he's gone, cause I think he needed to have a heads up that one of his members may, we're probably not gonna be able to make a decision on that one here today, but I don't know, it depends on what the others think,
but I think the thing to puzzle about, and that's why I wish Dee was here now, or we had a chance to do this, to figure out, I think it's right, if we look at the code and we wanna make sure that there's, clarity on certain things that don't even have to be disclosed, if it's from an organization, from the PTA, sort of name some things out, you got a bunch of experience, and that you don't even need
Mhm.
disclosure for that, it goes to the principal, or, they keep it on file there, so they have a record
Well,
of it.
and this pile that we have here would be less than 20%.
Right.
Cause an awful lot of it is PTA, we have a lot of BP Teacher of the Year awards. Organization giving
Right.
that, it's well advertised they do this, and it's nominated by the public through the teacher committee. It's,
Right, so that one, so where do you want, if it's not gonna come here, should there be disclosure, and where should it go? And it seems to me that there should be disclosure, so that somebody has a list, and that should be kept within the school district, that would be my suggestion about it. Don't just let them not keep a list, but, they should,
would you,
they should have that, so that would be
you
one.
think better to have the teacher have it, or the principal have it, or it goes to ASD? Cause we suggest, one Ted's suggestion is have the principal sign off on these that are over, you know, a certain amount. Cause then another person questioning it may bring.
Well, I like the idea of rather than have them sign off on it, is to the, like right here, this is just for the month of May, and it's double-sided. But rather than have the principal sign off on it, set with the new school year, set the parameters, you know, it's $50, it's $100, whatever, set it. Anything above that has to have prior approval from the principal. That puts it back on him, and the teacher, you know, if he approves it and he's wrong, then he answers to us,
The teacher and the principal.
the principal.
Well,
Right, well, I think this was the thinking, I'll share with you the thinking that Ken Stout shared with me when we were devising this, and he said that, and this is for, public official gifts also, and, you know, gifts across the board. He said that why you have a category for, an organization is that you don't really have control over the amounts that they are gonna be giving. He said, because that's up to them, you can't dictate that. He said, but what you wanna do is have it be a recognized, that's where we see some kind of words in there, cause you don't wanna have some fly-by-night, thing come and create just to give somebody, and he was mostly thinking of a political person, you know, a thing. So you wanna have it be the Knights of Columbus, you wanna have somebody with a history of doing that. He said the same thing for a lottery, otherwise they'll just create a lottery, and then bingo, this person's the winner, even though all these other people participate, because they're not running it as a real lottery. So all those things are in there. So what I think that what Ted's talking about should be focused on those parent gifts. I don't know that you wanna have a limit so that somebody can't accept a BP teacher, you know, award. If it fits into that category, it needs to be recognized someplace. My thinking is that it's kept, you know, they can put it online.
Well,
You
there
know,
is
or something, the school district puts it on their website, you just wanna have a record, that helps the teacher. There they got this and this and this, do something that creates a public record of it, cause that's all you need, you just don't need the public record over here.
Well,
And-
there is an
and-
ordinance for an organization to do that.
Right.
So, you know, just have them refer it back to that, take it away from this particular ordinance and tell them to, you know, to follow the parameters in the ordinance that says BP or any organization to make a donation.
Well, I think that's right here in this, in the gift, I
I think
didn't
it's on
bring
the
my.
form, I think maybe our form yet, maybe
Yeah.
another revision.
Right,
That's actually the school
right.
district's form,
Right.
not ours.
But in here, there's several of them here that are $200 and some, and it's donated by 48
Right, so
people.
do you have a copy in this book of the actual code?
Yeah,
the ethics
it's
code?
here.
Yeah, back here under AMC 1.15.
Yeah, so we're in 025, we're in, gifts, which is like M.
She's actually organized it by 025.
Yeah. Temporary services, disclosure, acquisition, contract, employment. Okay, so gift starts, with H on the bottom of
Yeah, right,
9.
yeah.
Okay, okay, so we got
Right
a
here.
monetary gift or
Yeah.
award in recognition of meritorious service or volunteer service, so long as presented by recognized civic or philanthropy. A municipal employee shall disclose a gift of award with a monetary value in excess. So we figure out that it says disclosed here, and I'm saying you wanna change that. They're gonna disclose it to somebody else, not you.
This is
You know.
Right,
And
That's their
so,
form.
and so.
I know, and it's confusing.
Okay, so what, they have something else there. So anyway, it just, you want our code to say that they, it seems to me that they, give it to the school board, because what you're saying is, what do we care, as long as it fits this, and then have the school board post it online. I mean, I'm looking at the actual
The school
code,
district
you're
and the
looking
school
at
board.
some
I
kind of
am,
form.
and this doesn't match. What is that again?
Right, so this is,
That's,
this is 1.15.025 H2C.
Okay. Because this form, I don't mean to belabor it for you if you need to leave, but this form is, I disclose allowable unsolicited gifts. And then they check the box, a gift with a value in excess of $50.
That's
Given-
under A. No?
Right, but I guess what I'm saying is this form makes it sound like you can keep it, so long as you disclose it.
Right, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying,
And
that's
then-
the old form, that's
Right.
the old mentality over there,
And then
just
this-
as
and then-
you said, as long as, and that was never the rule then.
No, and
It's not the rule now.
because what they say is allowable, they quote 1.15020, which says that a gift may not, that's substantially affected by the performance of the person's duties, where the timing and nature would cause reasonable, there's no mention of the $50 being prohibited in here. This form is confusing for the teachers. I never really actually paid that close attention to this form, I don't think.
Well,
So
G, I
maybe
think
what
is.
we,
This form is very misleading.
okay, so maybe what we need to have them also for a code change is to have the disclosure form for the ASD be approved by the ethics board.
Right, because.
Cause you're more
it says-
concerned about that.
And now I'm finally realizing why we're getting some of these different things. A gift in excess of $50 given to an ASD employee by a student, parent, guardian, group of parents, or community organization.
No,
It's
see,
not
that's
the
it.
law.
That's
Well,
not
that,
the
no,
law.
actually, it is under G. Down below, under G, it says a gift nominal value given to an employee of a school district by a parent, or student, group of parents, or community organization. The school district employee shall disclose the gift in this category with a value in excess of $50 as provided in the gift disclosure
Sure.
form.
But that's not the prohibition by it, that's not this, right?
Cause there are higher amounts in here, allows $150, $300, depending on what it is.
But that's why, this is why we're ending up with all of these forms with groups and organizations that we don't have a problem with.
Right, so the form is confusing, and what Keith has pointed out is that
Mhm.
there's a little bit of duplication here
Yes.
between G in the code
Mm-hmm.
and,
C.
and C, which is a recognized civic
Mhm.
nonprofit charitable organization not given as financial inducement.
Oh.
So the other one, it says community organization, and so that was a less formal way in case they weren't organized as something like that, but if you have, they're doing a $50 disclosure for BP, but, so we have to bring D up to date.
Mm-hmm.
What Ernie said, Dee, is that there's a meeting of the, Elections and Ethics Committee, that's the one, that's
Mhm.
the 11:30 meeting on Monday. And that they're gonna be looking for solutions to the problems that you bring them.
Oh, we're bringing problems, like
Yeah,
this
you're
Monday?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Their attitude is, don't bring us a problem unless you bring us a solution.
Well, and I understand that, it is easier to resolve something if you have something to start, a place to start from. But one of the things that's been suggested is we bring them our bullet list of, or 9 or 10
Code
items, whatever we
changes.
have, code changes, not necessarily with the actual code change, but just a suggested, suggestions, because that's gonna be something we're gonna have to deal with later. The primary purpose, I think, of this meeting that we have on, but we can give that as a kinda heads up to that committee. But part of this committee is also school district people, and we need to we
Is
need
it?
to deal,
Yeah,
yes.
there's gonna be 2 school, district members, and so what I envision from what Ernie said is that you'd have a list. And one in the bottom or top bullet on that list, and the list would be, I said to take the top 5, but Ernie said, no, if you have other things going, so it's like, it's a good opportunity to do something like what we were talking about. And then, but one of those items we'd actually have some solutions fleshed out for. The other thing is, here's what we're gonna come back to the committee with, changes, the ombudsman, cause Keith uses that, you know, we're
That's just
gonna
as an
come-
example, cause I can remember
as an
that one, there's a
example.
bunch of them.
But however many that is, that
Mhm.
we just sort of have off the top,
Mhm.
there, and then one of them is gonna be about reformations to teachers' disclosure.
Mhm.
And then that one is gonna have to have some sub-bullets about which are the solutions. And so Ernie just left here and we had just started, actually, that piece of going over, of them explaining about the solutions. So just, cause I'm just kinda brainstorming, one thing seemed to be that for teachers, for this ASD, there can be a whole group of legitimate gifts that are not the parent gifts that don't even come in here to the school, to the ethics board. The code can say that these, we can raise the monetary amount if BP is giving more than 150 or whatever it is, but you know, you guys have the experience, but this one here, if it's a monetary gift in recognition of service for ASD, we can have a different thing for ASD. And the ASD ones go to ASD someplace, they go to the principal, they go to, you know, the ethics board doesn't even have to see them. Somebody should be signing off and making a record, or posting it,
Or the school district ethical officer, which used to be Eric, I don't know who the new, somebody told me who the new person is that's in charge of, who's the ethics, you know, took over from Eric Tollefson.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have the name written down in the office.
yeah, well,
somewhere.
maybe we wanna have for ASD that they actually appoint the ethics officer. We didn't, every division's supposed to have one, but after Eric left, I mean, Eric, I had conversations with him lots and lots of times, and then after he left, I've never heard a thing.
There is a new person, I just don't have a name here.
But it's not that's not their full-time job.
No, I don't.
No, see, Eric Tollefson was like the assistant superintendent or something, and so whoever the new assistant superintendent is, like a little tiny piece of their job is the ethics officer, but, so that would be a question mark. So the thing to present on Monday would be, we think that for the ASD, we should have a separate section, not just this employee section on gifts. And the low-hanging fruit would be these teacher recognition gifts by, community organizations and whatever this is, that we see that there's sort of an overlap for ASD between C and G down here. So we have one thing that says if it's a non, you know, an outside group gift, as Keith says, they're well published, you know, BP, Conoco, these other places do this. We don't have a monetary amount, we're not gonna dictate to BP how much they can give to a teacher. We're just gonna require that the record be kept and that the ASD post it. Okay, can't hurt. I mean, what are they gonna say? No, we're not gonna post it for the teacher. Teacher gets a big award, let them have it. You know, celebrate it, go.
Well,
You
yeah,
know,
I
you
think,
don't
yeah,
need to do
use it as a positive as opposed to
yeah,
a negative.
use it as a positive. So that pushes those out. And for them, we're gonna have to figure out how you're gonna manage the presumption that gifts within a certain limit are not gonna be seen as trying to influence a grade. And gifts over that limit need to go through some kind of clearance house and be anonymous, or
Right.
whatever your
Well,
criteria is.
And like Ernie said, that there's a way to monitor grades daily, you know, on the computer now. And if this has to be approved by the principal or whoever you say, that person has all that information right there, and he or she can make a decision right then. No, this will influence that person's grade, or no, this one did influence that person's grade, or
Yeah, and I
whatever.
think that it's not just
We
the
don't
grade,
have
I
the
think that we
access
have
to
to,
all that.
yeah, that's right, but the thing I think that so Ernie, to bring Dee up to speed, Ernie said, on these gifts, for like the $2,000, I mean, the way it's set up now, it's all electronic. And so, a teacher can look up, a parent can look up a grade, and if all of a sudden there's a spike, they can do that. And then the pushback was, that kid is gonna be getting good grades, because for $2,000 cash, I'm sitting there, and they're getting all my attention. And so, yes, their grade every day is gonna be great, and the parent who lives in the trailer court, their kid is not gonna get that. And so, Ernie said, yeah, well, you didn't think about that, that
And the subsequent
there's
teachers.
more to it than that, so, and he said he hadn't thought about that there should be, that there could be gifts for teachers to go to, school and stuff like that. It could be anonymous, they could, you need to have something where the school district comes up with their solution
Right.
on how you don't have a perception that I as a parent cannot compete with this kind of gift giving to make sure that my kid has the attention of this teacher.
Now, I felt the superintendent, he only made a couple comments about this, but I believe from what I heard him to say, it sounded like he was encouraging us to come up with something that would work. He wasn't dismissive, at least in my opinion, in that meeting on the 7th. He wanted us to work something out. I mean, he's been
but
part of the
see, you're-
system for.
But the thing is, just what you guys are talking about, you don't, and what Ted says, you don't have the intricacies of everything that they do, but you could come up with some high level requirements, it'd be anonymous. And they can figure out how they can do that. I mean, that's what I was saying, without that discussion coming in here, you wanna see how, you wanna envision how something like that, as an example, would work right, and figure out what the incidences of it are. Unless you want an all-out ban, but it seems to me that there would be some way for parents to be able to support teachers and higher education, even if it had all those things. Keith told her, that they get certificates. Certificates mean more pay in their union scale deal and their negotiations, and then the kids following, as we talked about before you left, the kid coming behind. I mean, it's not as simple as just saying, oh, well, you can look up their grades and they can do it, but figure out what those indices are. And to me, anonymous is big on the list, just as a parent, as a parent of.
Well, there's, it specifically says in the ordinance, different, $50, $100, $150, $300, depending on what the situation is. And if we redone that particular section to where it's from a parent, it's $50, period, end. That's it. No overage, $50. The PTA, $100. They can donate to the teacher for the classroom. BP, or a big corporation, if it goes, can be unlimited. But, I have a heartburn with a parent can donate $50, up to $50, period. But if they give more than that, then you gotta fill out this form. And I say, do away with that. $50, that's the limit that a parent can give to a teacher. Just let it go at that. A PTA can give $100, cause we get a lot of them from the PTA or a group of teachers, a group of people, separate it out, but just put it down in black and white. I mean, it's no if, maybe, or whatever.
I think the problem is what we're trying to do is, the code is there to help enforce the actions of the employees.
Mm-hmm.
But the people giving the gifts are not employees, and therefore technically they don't come under the code. They can give a gift, but then their gift puts the employee at risk because if they receive a gift that's
Yeah,
higher.
well, they have to
we can-
return it, we need to have it
Yeah,
be
yeah.
right in the code that you return it.
Mhm.
So let's talk about some of the things that he said, so let's put the $50 limit, we'll just hold that over here in the parking lot for parents. Should there be, any limit on contributions to a classroom for supplies?
Now-
And should it go through the PTA, so that, you know, and can I'm a parent of a kid in 3rd grade, and I have this vision for this project that I'd like to see all the kids in that class do. That we moved up here from someplace else and that teacher do it, and I knew that it was, that the supplies for that, or that field trip, or whatever it is, was $1,500, but by God, I wanna have that happen. And I want my kid to have that experience in that classroom with that teacher. Can I go to the PTA and say, here's the $1,500, I want it to go for this, I want it to be anonymous? Okay, so where are the flaws? I mean, if you know, so you wanna build that in, so that the PTA, or in the absence of a PTA, some other ASD structure, because who is the ethics, but why is the ethics rule come into play for school supplies I mean, we should be encouraging as much school supplies as we can, we just have to
Why?
make sure that it's not gonna be influencing
Apparently.
how a kid is
But
treated.
there has to be a mechanism where there isn't PTA, and I understand that in some schools there is not a functioning,
Right.
School
Right.
PTA organization.
Why, did you suggest $100 limit for PTA?
He was just
I-
throwing in a
The
amount.
only reason I said that was because that's what most of them were
Right.
in there.
No, because I'm thinking,
was-
is a PTA, I'm not quite sure how, she's only 21 months, I'm still figuring out how this all works, but, what is a PTA, how does it function, is it anonymous? Do people, provide money to it, and then the PTA then chooses where to send it, or can you?
The PTA goes out and raises funds
Okay.
and this sort of thing, and when I
Do
was
you have
on the
discretion over
PTA,
where it goes then, if you wanna
Yeah.
do something anonymous?
You
say like
might,
Julie
you
has?
might.
yeah, when I
Or
was
can
on
you-
the PTA, I went to Juneau, we
Okay.
needed, and for Chugiak Elementary, we needed new computers, and the school district didn't have any money.
Okay.
I went to Juneau,
I
got,
see.
got them to appropriate $35,000 to buy computers specifically for Chugiak Elementary.
I see.
Through the PTA did all that,
Mhm.
and that's what the PTA does. And we would, you know, a teacher would come to the PTA, I have this project, and it's
Oh,
gonna
I
cost
see.
X number of dollars, I would like some help from the PTA.
I see.
The PTA goes out and raise funds, if they agree with the project, go out and raise funds, this sort of
They
thing.
can have bake sales, they can
Sure.
Yeah,
have
see.
all
any
of that.
kind of thing,
I
it's
see.
Parent Teachers Association.
It seems though that the best, if a person under Julia's scenario wanted to supply goods to a particular classroom for a specific reason, for example, it sounds to me like that would fit under more of an anonymous donation than it would through the PTA then, right?
Mhm.
Because then you can very specifically direct that money, but as long as it's, I tend to agree, as long as it's anonymous. I mean, I don't know if it can remain anonymous, really,
It
but.
doesn't- I mean, if
but-
it comes from the PTA, you know,
Right.
the PTA doesn't, or ours didn't anyway, publish, you know, where we got the money. We did fundraising, you know,
Right.
bake sales and carnivals, you know, winter and spring carnival.
But
and
could
this
a
sort of
person
thing.
go to the PTA and say, I want $1,000 to go to this classroom?
And
Right.
here's the check.
Can you do that?
Yeah.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
PTA would then honor
They-
that
they
request?
say-
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
This
it's
is what
conditional,
we
it's just
want.
like a
okay.
charity.
Yeah.
Okay.
You say,
Yeah.
okay, I wanna do a computer.
Which
for
is,
this
which
person.
is what could have happened, for an example, with this one scholarship.
That's the way it
So-
should have been handled.
Right, that's why.
But some schools don't have a functioning PTA,
Right.
and so you have to
You
have a
have your
fallback.
anonymous.
Plus, what the ethics board may wanna do, again, is to tell us, these are the parameters, it has to be anonymous, it has to be
Mhm.
given through, the school district has to provide, come up with how they do it, and suggestion would be that you create a mechanism where it goes to a PTA, and in the absence of a functioning
Right.
PTA, it would go to, you know, some committee that ASD creates for that. So if I'm a teacher, if I'm a parent, and I wanna do these things, I can go on the ASD website and I can see, here's the PTA that I can do this, and I see right away that it has to be anonymous. And if the teachers can say, no, that's great, that's it, but that has to be handled differently, and then you get some buy-in on getting that out ahead of time, because otherwise, if I go to you, you're the teacher, and I say, geez, I'm a parent, I wanna make this contribution for you to go to class, and the teacher says, no, you know, I can't take it,
And something next
you have to
week.
go to the next,
Yeah.
they get it from the PTA, then it's
Right.
not very anonymous.
There's only so much you can do though, you know,
Right, and at least in that case, somebody would be signing off, but, you know, in other cases, I mean, to me, I don't-
Out of curiosity, when I wanna give $40, I keep all my gifts under 50 to school teachers. When I wanna give $40 to school for supplies, it's always for supplies. I want it to be expedient. If I can't hand it to that teacher, then I would go to the principal. I would never go through this whole process, you know, any kind of process.
that's why we were talking about that in terms of large things, not
Yeah.
small things, so you
Yeah.
have a threshold.
But
We
if
have a-
you could do it
$50,
directly,
you
We
do,
have a
we just
hard-
put 50 over here,
hard
and we're
rule.
just gonna
Hard
say,
rule.
hard rule for 50,
That's
you
it.
can give up to 50 in any way, for any purpose, over
Yeah.
here to the teacher,
But
and
it's
we're
so
gonna
much-
assume
But
it's
that's the
not
limit.
that, but
Yeah.
that's the
but
limit.
it's much easier to
Okay.
understand than the way it's written right
Yeah.
now, just because now it's
Anything
it's
above that
nominal,
has
but
to
it's
go to
not
PTA
nominal, and then
or
it might
whatever.
be, right,
And then you have that these other awards aren't even disclosed, if they're
Right.
from a legitimate organization,
Non-parent.
the
Right.
the
Yeah.
non-parent community awards, they have to go through, you know, ASD has to have a mechanism to sign
accept
up,
them,
to
really,
accept
but
them
then
and
record them,
and
that's it.
record them, and
It
even
was-
if the teacher's accepting them, it should be, they need to disclose and record them someplace, and
it
then
would
you
seem to be
do that.
easier to, for the
And then-
teachers to understand, easier for the parents to understand, we would get less forms to
Yeah,
worry
too
about.
simple.
It would solve the problem of supporting the teachers, we want them, we've never wanted to interfere with the teachers and their benefits, but it would also keep it clean.
Right, and so then over
Very
$50, you have to go through this
Right.
way, and that there's no gifts of coach purses and
Right,
diamond
right.
jewelry and tennis bracelets and receptions, you know, and then you can limit, you can say the gifts over $50 need to fall into one of these categories. Teacher training, you can have that be a category.
So you
School
couldn't give-
supplies, school,
You couldn't give, a $400, not cash, but I guess one of these.
gift
little-
certificates.
A gift certificate
certificates to
anonymously. I mean, you couldn't give a $400 Allure gift certificate to whatever is the PTA or principal to that teacher if it was anonymous. I mean, you're gonna restrict the type of gifts as well.
Well, I think you have to think about doing that because you don't have, I mean, what?
Well, because barter is easy, not barter, but the parents do sometimes have access to the in-kind gifts, and I'd hate to eliminate those, so could that be handled in an anonymous fashion? You know, tickets to the spa,
Right.
gets given to the police, the PTA or the principal.
Because like you say, some people may work in a certain industry where they have access to things.
Well, and as for an example, a good example was the airline tickets, it was a
Mhm.
pilot, the coupons didn't cost him anything. And so he provides these coupons to the teacher, there was 2 tickets anywhere Alaska flew, then seems like
Well,
they went to
maybe
Vegas
it's
or Las
in-kind
Vegas.
gifts to the extent that they can remain anonymous. But
Mhm.
if
Yeah.
they can't, you know, you have to sign in and the manager is the
Yeah,
parent.
because you know, we don't do that for other employees, they can't accept them. You know, it has to fit into one of these things.
But is
You
it
know,
the
you
nature
can't
of their
have-
job lend itself to more of this kind of thing? I mean, well, I would say purchasing actually would lend itself to some potential gifts as well.
Yeah, well, the clerk's office does, I mean, the Cont'd gets their big contract out of the clerk's office, the different attorney contracts, the stuff like that, and so at Christmas time, they can give, but they have to give things that are for immediate consumption, and they have to be under,
So Julia, a firefighter saves someone and that family wants to give that firefighter $2,000. That's just
So
prohibited.
thinking beyond the school district.
Yeah, no, this just as an example of non-school district. So
Yeah, so
firefighter
look at
is a
M.
wonderful thing.
Maybe what they should do is buy another communicator or something.
yeah, I mean, it's set up, the idea about it before was that was that you have things that go to the good of the cause, not for individuals, because
So
that's
you-
up for the other people, so.
Okay,
So you'd have to find an example, so, payment of a business meal, no. A discounted price available to public sector employees generally, no. A monetary gift or award presented in recognition of meritorious service. A municipal employee shall disclose the gift of 100 provided as a gift disclosure
So
for,
that wouldn't work
from the
either.
designated, yeah, so, well, this is one of those ones where it says disclosure, and then the problem is that you don't know, because,
So it doesn't fit within any of these, so that type of a gift should be, can it be or should it be rerouted to, and I asked this cause it's come up recently, gets rerouted to the fire department, station number 5, then that's okay? I mean, people wanna give the city money, this has been coming up lately. One of the examples was a firefighting situation. So I was gonna park myself on your doorstep shortly
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
So, as long as we have this
Yeah.
opportunity.
So what I think that you wanna think about on that, I mean, one time, when we had, he's retired now, we had, a policeman rescue somebody off a bridge. And so, LV had us do up a recognition resolution for that. He was a community action police,
Mhm.
you know, big guy on that Denny, and the police chief, and I don't think it's the current police chief, but the police chief called, and he didn't want her doing that, because every time you did that, then it meant that all these other people didn't get recognized, and the police really wanted to do the recognition, how they do it themselves, so when the police asked me when this first came in about, something that wasn't as grand as that, that's traditionally why the police, I understood why the police had the Widows and Orphans Fund. You know, things could go in, they had a bucket, it's up to the department to create that kind of a bucket so that they can receive, money, in that thing, have the canine dog system, you know, cause otherwise,
Yeah.
every time you're giving something to, I mean, you know, you wanna be able to receive it, the question is, for that,
So
we
departmental
have enough.
buckets are fine, probably. I mean, someone does something great and someone wants to donate to a department, if they have a mechanism for, call it a bucket, that would work.
I
There's
think
just
so.
these concerns about
I
individual
think so, I
employees.
think so, but I think that you're right in that even though we're looking at ASD in specific, started the conversation, I think that there's room to find out what works for the departments, what works for them, and then let's fix it in the
Oh,
code.
yeah, see, I think
You know,
the
so I
code
mean, I don't
section
know
could be-
how it,
Yeah.
I don't know how they get, but how do the supervisors of how do the people that run how does George Michaelis, how would he like to see us be able to accept money? He's really good. He would be the contact person on this one.
Okay.
Not Larry Baker, but George, because George is gonna bring, ASD experience, he's
Yes.
gonna bring
Well,
military experience,
Mhm.
and he's in charge of police and fire. And he's had it when they've had strong police and fire people, and he's had them when they're not as strong. And so, let's ask George how he would envision this, so that the city can maximize and can reward, and let those things trickle down, but so it's not a direct thing that puts other people, you know, in a position.
Well, you know, we don't wanna restrict people being able to make donations or whatever, but we can give them regulations on how to do it.
Right,
And where to do it.
there you go.
know, that's what we need to do.
That's right,
Right.
that's right, that's what we're talking about.
Can I ask a question, just as a public person who has kids and gives gifts all the time to the school district? Can you make a code change that requires the school district to educate the parents? Whereas you've said in the past, they haven't put it in newsletters, they haven't, sent out a letter or anything like that. Cause I think some of that can stop if parents knew, boy, I'm not really doing anybody a favor by giving them $150 spa certificate.
Well, that's why I say you can have a regulation
Yes,
how
the
they can
answer's
do it.
yes, on how
How
to
they
do
do
it,
it.
and so, yeah, so
Yeah,
I
and so
think that one of the
that'd be a
things should be
possible solution
mandatory,
to discuss.
mandatory, yeah, it's on the bullet list going
Right.
into Monday, is that we need, mandatory parent, awareness.
Yeah.
That's a very good idea, Lisa.
Okay.
We're getting
We
behind
got
time.
20
What-
minutes, I don't know if we're gonna get done with everything we've gotta get done today.
Well,
I think
would
you're gonna
like to
move
see us
faster
close
if
out
I
that.
excuse myself and go to my other meeting. You invited me to do that before, and then I blathered
Well,
on.
no,
and
Julie, your time is
so-
very valuable. I
so
appreciate it,
It's,
but-
but
Thank
you have
you.
a better shot, and
I don't think
I'm
we have a
available.
choice, to be
And
honest with you,
you can
Ted.
camp on my door,
Ah.
except I'll be here
I don't think we have a
tomorrow and
choice.
Friday.
Okay, let's,
I like those ideas.
What's this now? Robin Phillips wants to come back to the Board of Ethics,
She wants to come back?
what?
according to this thing.
Okay, now where are we, in the green?
No, that's clear back in the
Oh.
Sunday memorandum of something else a long time ago.
7B.
I thought she had a conflict.
She's gone. I don't know, this is a memorandum that's attached, I just happened to go through something here.
But-
Here's yours.
Yeah, that's
These
it.
are all the memorandum of who when the terms expire.
Latest appointments.
I just happened to, so yours expires next year. But back to, where are we here? This current meeting packet. Thank you for keeping us organized here, Lisa, I know that's probably a full-time job. So should we
Go back in there.
do we want to make a motion as to the resolution of 2013-3?
Yes. I mean, we already, and maybe I missed something. I thought we already voted that it was not.
No, Dee asked us not to.
No, well, I think you voted that it was not partisan, and my concern was how to disseminate
Respond.
that response.
Okay, and okay, I concur with you that we need to come up with something more informative.
Then a dismissal.
And just, other than just a
Okay.
dismissal, because
Yeah.
it felt like, to me, the person has gone through the time and effort to do something,
I agree.
right or wrong, and then we just come back with a one line, found.
Yeah, I mean, and that's
It
fine.
makes it look like
but,
we don't do anything.
You know, looking at this and listening to it and looking at this, the way I look at it, it's to defend in court that this is partisan, and I couldn't do that. I mean, I couldn't show anywhere in here where it says, go vote for this. You know
No.
what I mean? That's,
And I think that the board really, you all made it very clear
Yeah.
last week that you did not think it was partisan, or last month.
Right.
My suggestion would be that, maybe I start with a lead on a quick opinion,
Yes.
and then have some input.
I was afraid that was
If I
gonna
could
fall
pick,
on me.
yeah, and then I can pick on somebody else to do
Absolutely.
a second follow-up.
I'd be
Yeah.
happy to.
And then,
Yeah,
okay, so
that's
why don't
fine,
we,
but
then
I-
I'll do a quick,
Okay, so
so
that wasn't my
So
recollection.
you actually, Julie made a good point, you made a finding of fact that this was nonpartisan, and that is a finding of fact, and therefore we're not finding in favor of it, but we're not dismissing it for lack of jurisdiction.
Right.
We're dismissing it based on a factual analysis, so I will write a quick opinion, and if I could have the board's, authority, I would pass that back and forth probably to David.
You too,
Yeah.
and then,
I'd be
Okay.
happy to.
If-
That would work
you
very,
agree
very
with
well.
it, go.
I think that would be the most efficient way.
Yeah.
to do it.
Efficient, yeah, so we
Yeah.
have.
I mean,
Okay.
if that's all right with the chair.
It's
That's
easier to
okay
edit.
with me.
Okay.
Do we need to do that step
It's a
in the
lot
form
less
of a
time.
motion, or is that just
No,
continuing
that's,
it?
it's, I mean, the motion was already there.
The acclamation was that we were gonna do that.
Yeah.
We're probably getting out of our time frame, but I don't think that really matters because
Because of the
we're
decision.
fighting its negative
Right.
anyway.
So,
I'm-
I'm sorry to interrupt, so just to be clear, has a decision been made then that needs to be made, or are we going to issue the decision? We don't need to make a decision
No.
here, we will issue the, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the
Perfect.
decision was already made, it's just you
Right.
two are gonna
Okay.
decide how to tell
How to
the
disseminate the
individual.
information.
How to disseminate,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect, good, I just wanna make sure I understand too.
And I don't think it
Well,
has to come back to the board.
I don't have, a motion from the last meeting.
That's what I remembered.
Well, no,
Okay,
it
well,
was in,
let's-
it
so
was in,
someone
it
could
was in,
make a motion.
it was in the,
But we can't make a motion in executive session.
right.
Are we in
So
executive
that's-
session?
Yeah, we're in
We,
executive.
we're not now.
Oh,
We would've
okay.
had to have come out.
We would've had to
of
come out of
Yeah.
executive session, you asked us to
And I-
hold
and I-
off.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that's why I think we need to close out this one, I still think we need to,
Yeah.
at least, as she says, we need to come up with, we need to have a motion in regular session to close out 2013-3.
yeah.
Is that, is it closing it out, or is it the decision to dismiss it? Or to not accept it, or?
No, I think we are accepting it because we made a factual
That
decision.
Okay, so-
Decision that it's not.
So we're gonna render a decision.
Okay, so I guess I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this in my head, so then what you would do is,
I'll second.
the motion is to accept it for consideration, but then to disseminate and issue an opinion according to the decision that's been made during executive session.
Right.
Is that a fair?
Yeah.
And that decision, I think we can say that in open session, is that it's not of a partisan
Okay.
nature, but
Okay.
that's the important fact that the board found to be.
Correct, so we have motion and a second, any opposition? None, motion's.
Okay, good.
I think I already, now, I'll make sure she keeps us straight here. Can I get acclamation on C? I believe Terry was working on this, to develop a procedure for notice of potential violation investigation. And him not being here. I'm just looking at the calendar here, or the
We
clock.
also, I mean, it sounds like the school district stuff will be first on the Monday meeting. Does everybody plan to attend, by the way?
I plan to be there.
I plan on
I
being
plan to be there.
Okay, so the three of us,
Will you
and
be there,
Terry
Dave?
won't be there.
Okay.
I will now.
And I don't know about, I've not spoken to Steve, I don't know what his
Okay.
situation is. He's not quite, no disrespect to him, but he's not quite up on the issues.
That does sound like a good bullet point to bring up on Monday as well.
Is the investigation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how do, because we did a lot of discussion under the code to try to figure out whether there's that intermediate period where we can investigate without accepting, right? Isn't
Right.
that kind of the concept?
Right.
So, that might, would you, I mean, I don't.
I'm gonna
this-
have to look into it, yeah.
Okay.
Could you get us the bullet list that you've been creating? Don't you have an item, like 10 items or something?
Well, I mean, my notebook, I circle every time there's a code that needs to be changed.
You've got more
I
than
need to go
10 then.
back.
That's gonna take
And,
interpretation.
Yeah, and, see here, add ombudsman right there.
Okay, so if.
See, there's the list right there.
Yeah, so.
Rewrite
I knew
gift
you were,
section.
I knew you were keeping a list. But if we could then, so that we could hand them at least something, it doesn't mean it has to
Yes.
be the end all to be all list.
No, not at all,
But,
just,
but
you know.
it gives them a indication that we have some
Right.
things that
Yeah,
we've
my
been
own-
working this.
Well,
My only concern is.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you,
No, no,
Ted.
go ahead.
My only concern is I wanna make sure that we are organized and that we're presenting them with, like you say, a bullet list that we've had a chance to clean and clarify and make sure that we're not spending any time amongst ourselves debating what we're presenting to them, or that we're all on the same page. I wanna make sure that we take our time and use our time very, very efficiently.
Well, I think, the way I can think this meeting on Monday should end up is that, you know,
That's the
we
first
don't
of many
want
meetings.
this group going in and making a bunch of changes, the school board going in and making a bunch
Right.
of changes, the assembly going in and making a bunch of, and you got a big pile of paperwork.
No, no.
You know, what we wanna decide when we talk to them on Monday, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that, okay, this is our problem. We have a problem, this is our problem, and this is what we see as a solution, is to change the code here and this. We will work on this, Dee will write something up, we will give it to you for your approval,
Consideration.
changes, everything come back to us, so that when the final thing is done, they've approved it, Assembly's approved it, we've approved it, then it goes for public hearing. That's the way I anticipate the meeting going on Monday. Now, is that wrong?
No, it's just that I don't think it is in the smooth respect, especially with respect to the school district stuff. But Ernie asked us for the list of the larger list.
Right.
That we could at least introduce to them what our issues are.
Right.
Not necessarily that we have ironed out amongst ourselves,
Right.
how we feel.
I just wanna make sure before we give them a long list of things that, because there's no prohibition for us from submitting and editing our list at a later date. I wanna
No,
make sure that,
absolutely not.
what I mean is, this is not the last meeting we're gonna have, right? So I
No.
wanna make sure if we give them a list, that we have had a chance to make sure that we're all on the same page when we submit it to them as an idea, cause what I don't wanna do is do a shotgun, they're like, oh, this committee's got all kinds of issues. I just wanna make sure that we are very, precise with our approach.
Well, and I guess I would suggest you, how are we gonna do that when the meeting is Monday?
That's my point, I'm concerned that we don't have enough time.
Unless there's a pre-meeting Monday, or,
Right.
I don't know if we could get
You know,
together on
we kind of
Friday.
had a couple pre-meetings, do you anticipate having another one?
No,
I don't know.
no, in terms of
No,
us
us.
having a,
Oh,
um,
well, we could,
Or keep
I
them
can't-
short,
I can't-
that's my point.
well, I think it's necessarily, there's gonna be the school district,
Okay.
a couple other areas, and that's it, that's all
Okay.
we can go over.
Okay.
And they need some fundamental education stuff
Right.
about the whole school district issue.
Right.
I mean, isn't this also?
And we can do that,
I
yeah.
mean, we haven't talked to the rest of the I mean, like the assembly members that are on this committee, Adam, I think is the head of Trombley, and, are they, is the whole
Star
group
and
on it now?
Ornament.
Holman, Star, and Trumpet.
And
Okay.
we've not spoken to
We have not
Holman.
spoken to them separately, so,
Okay.
okay, here's, you start with the school district, okay?
Right.
This is one of the things, we spent an awful lot of time, so, I think that could be done pretty quickly
Yes.
and get them engaged and
Yes.
involved, and
Yeah.
we have a pretty good sense of that one, I think, at this point.
Okay, good.
And then
Yeah.
that there may be some other more technical, for instance.
Okay.
We wanna make clear, our role and,
Okay, that sounds good.
okay,
I like
so
that.
it's
Yeah.
shorter.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Okay, one question, who's running that meeting?
My gut feeling is that would be Trombley. He would be the chair.
Oh,
He's the chair.
well, you're talking in terms of us.
us or with the?
No, I mean, they're
Yeah.
running the meeting, but in terms of our presentation and
Well,
everything.
yeah, somebody's gonna have to chair it or whatever. Is it the school district? Is it the assembly?
No,
Is
the
it
assembly,
ethics
it's the
committee?
assembly's committee, and the school district is participating, and we're also participating, I guess.
Mhm.
Am I
So,
reading that right?
do you have a sense, or are they gonna ask us, and I don't know what Ernie told you, are they gonna ask us for our suggestions, is that, and so they're gonna turn it over to us?
What he recommended is that we present them with changes that we're interested in making, and that we present some solutions, how we're gonna go about making those changes.
Yeah.
But not to engage in a discussion with them at this point.
No.
With the merits of those changes necessarily. Did I understand him right?
That's how I.
We don't wanna get into this kind of melee
No,
discussion.
not-
We wanna say, this is what our concern is, this is what we propose doing, we're gonna go about doing this, and we'll get back to you. Right?
Right, exactly.
Because I don't want to get
No.
mulled into stuff.
But somebody's gotta, gonna have to take notes, this sort of thing,
Oh,
and I don't know if it's the assembly, and if they're gonna have
oh,
somebody from the clerk's office to take notes, or is it from, and I think that should be settled prior.
Right, well,
the
that's
meeting.
kinda like my meeting with them a couple weeks ago. I had 10 minutes to present the issue, not necessarily have any issue, not necessarily present solutions at that time. It was just get the issue out so that we could then,
Yeah.
Chairman Hall could then, create a committee of the ethics and election committee as well as the school district members. And
So
ask
we
us
still
to-
need that same presentation at the front end of our
I don't think it
presentation?
is. Well, they've all
Or
seen
so they
it.
already seen it, okay.
Yeah, they've all seen it.
Okay.
So,
they
it wasn't
understand
much
the
of a
issues.
presentation, it was
Uh-huh.
like, here's your, 105 out of 153 here in the annual report, and here's your, here's our calendar year of reports from the school district.
Mhm.
And then I highlighted just the typical things, like, well, you were there, but it was
Mhm.
the airline tickets, the diamond jewelries, and the $2,000 gift.
oh, we haven't, I'm sorry. We haven't.
We do. Yeah, so I guess I'm not reading it.
So as far as the meeting then goes on Monday, are we in agreement then that the major issue we're gonna bring up is the school district?
School district.
Yeah.
But it sounds to me like this is something we also might mention to them, that we'd like to get in, to also dig into this procedure for notices of potential violation. Are there any other things in other issues that we want to discuss with them, I mean, like I said,
Well, but-
the district's gonna be the major position.
The district, because, in my opinion, because this has members, has people on the, that are there who are not assembly members.
Mhm.
I think that the primary purpose obviously is, to me, is the school district.
Okay.
And we mentioned we have other things we can probably
Okay.
mention as a side,
Okay.
because we're gonna have to meet again with
Yes.
Honeman,
Okay.
Starr,
Good.
Trombley,
Okay.
on all the other issues.
And just to let you know, those two members of the, Anchorage School Board were invited specifically
Okay.
just for this topic.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it seems
Okay.
like this is
Good.
school board.
The thing I
Okay.
think we need to keep in mind that whatever we do, we want it done and over with before the beginning of the school year. So that when they have the teacher orientation, they can present all of this and get it out there, and we're running out of time.
Well, I know,
Yeah.
so that's why I'd like to focus on this, and then
Then-
put in the education part, as you suggested, with respect to the, that the school district puts out in their newsletters.
Right. But, so let's deal with this one item rather than going into
'cause
the
you-
development procedure
agree.
for potential.
I agree.
You know, let's,
Right, we can
Let's not
we
put
can
that in-
prioritize that ourselves.
Right.
Even if we give them a heads up
yeah,
that that's coming down the
and the
line.
school district isn't particularly involved in that.
That's right.
In that
I
aspect.
agree.
So if we can get this done and approved by the assembly, go
Yes.
before a public hearing and everything, so it's over and done with before the beginning of the school year.
Yes,
So that we can go into this new school year
yes,
with a clean slate.
okay. Can it happen that quickly? I hesitate to ask. Is this something,
You
a
know,
code revision, can it be done in the next 3 months?
Yeah?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Well, technically, it's only 2 months, actually,
Yeah.
because.
Right,
well,
cause they
it
started.
takes
they
a
started
month from
August
the time
15th.
it gets in the
Yeah,
system.
August 15th
But
is when they're-
I think you can have cooperation of the school district without the code revision.
Sure, okay.
So that would be a subsequent.
Okay.
You know, I guess to me, it still seems, and I didn't hear what Ernie had to say, but it still seems that we have concerns, we have some ideas, but we need the school district to say, okay, with the 2 weeks, this is what we're gonna do with your concerns. You know,
Mhm.
this is how we think you should
But
handle it.
let's not forget, we are in the driver's seat as far as
Yeah.
ethics.
Well, that's
and-
true.
and
Okay,
this.
we.
So, and
So
they have
Ted,
to
that's a
adhere
good
to
point.
whatever we
Mhm.
present to the assembly and the assembly passes, they have to adhere to it.
That's right.
So maybe we are giving them suggestions this Monday, and we've talked about some of them, I mean,
Yeah.
a flat out, you can do gifts under this.
Right.
After that, it becomes,
Anonymous or PTA.
A
uh,
non-debatable
Okay.
issue,
Uh-huh.
once it's approved by the
Right.
assembly.
right.
He was pretty concise on it. He said, voice the problem, suggest a solution.
Yeah.
We'll give it to Julia to write up,
Yeah.
and then it'll come back to you guys.
Right.
You guys will review it, it'll go back to the Committee for
Yeah.
Ethics and Elections, they'll review it, then it'll go before, we'll have work session, and then it'll go before the Assembly.
With a public hearing.
Sure.
And if one of us, we all need to attend the work session, I'm assuming we would be invited.
Oh,
at
yeah,
least on that
well, we would have to
particular-
do the presentation probably.
That's true, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so this meeting is voice the problem and suggest some solutions.
Mhm. Okay.
And not necessarily have to be the be all to end all on the solutions either.
No,
Yeah.
these are out there, I mean, we're collecting ideas, right?
Right,
Right,
there
now,
is-
Just started
once
talking
we
about
get
it.
it there, then that's it.
What I don't
Yeah.
wanna do is create another mess by forcing something through quickly that we're
Well,
gonna have to
if
kind
we
of-
can't straighten it out,
Yeah, I wanna
let's-
help, yeah.
let's throw it in the trash can.
Well, right, I agree, I don't wanna create a problem bigger than we already have.
Right.
I mean, we do have admittedly, we have a problem, which we've spent 2 hours talking about, and we don't have the time to continue.
So are all the people who are gonna be there aware of the problem? I mean, not to the extent that the board is.
Because
but-
you brought it up to them?
Cause they've all heard some of the preliminary discussion?
They all heard the preliminary discussion a couple weeks ago. Some of them more so than others. I know, but I don't think Higgins is gonna be there, for an example, and neither is Chris Birch. And I've had some, off-site discussions with both of them, one of them because he's my customer and the other one because he's my assemblyman. But that's why if you ever see anything from either one of them come through here, I have to recuse myself.
Yeah.
But, so they're not gonna be at that meeting on Monday, because they're not part of those committees.
But this is gonna be hopefully a smaller one-on-one type deal, Will. Whatever we want go back to the school board is gonna go through these two school board members to go back and, I'm sure they're gonna have to give a report at the next school board meeting and also at the next assembly meeting that, you know, we met with the ethics board and this is what we agreed on. You know, they're gonna rewrite the code and it's gonna send back to us and we're gonna review it a little bit and then it'll come back and eventually it'll come to the full body for,
But, you know,
for approval.
we're a long ways from where we were 3 years ago when the school board just dismissed us.
Yeah.
When I went
Well,
with
the problem we
Marissa.
had there, the problem there was they didn't think there was a problem.
Well, they just thought, yeah, we went over to their building and they just dismissed us. Marissa and I went.
Yeah, and they didn't think there was a problem, but
Oh.
I'll tell you, just like that problem you got over there, but just take a look at the month of May.
Yeah, I know.
And that's double-sided, just the month of May.
Well, you should have seen before she pulled out all of the fact sheets.
Yeah.
It was easily that size.
Yeah,
just-
this is just the month of May, you know.
Well, that brings us to another issue that we've run short on time. And we all gotta get back, most of us gotta get back to work. What's the feeling towards having just a meeting just to deal with this, the rest of this stuff here?
Like it's another meeting?
Well, I wanna limit ourselves to this disclosure forms. We got two months of disclosure forms we haven't even done.
No, we didn't
Right.
deal with them last week.
We didn't deal with them last time.
What is, I mean, we've done this before, we've had a special meeting. On Wednesdays are good for me. Noon on Wednesdays, I clear, my calendar's clear for the rest of the year.
And so that's why we need to have at least a
So if you want a
quorum.
meeting next Wednesday, fine, that's fine with me. You know, just to review.
That, and we
on
may
the
need to at
agenda.
least to look at, I have to look at 13-4, I haven't even looked at it. Cause I've been busy at work, I haven't gone through, and since I had seen disclosures before, I didn't go through all the disclosures, but you snuck in this 13-4.
Yes, that
And-
snuck in on me.
Where is that 13-4?
It's in
That'd be 8B. And since we're on,
Well, let me,
okay, this one we have seen,
Yeah, we have to, it's just back in again.
yeah, we have to be careful, cause we're on the record. This one's a little more strongly worded.
yeah, we've seen that one before.
Yeah,
Well,
but
it's
it's
the similar version.
It's come up again,
Oh, I didn't know.
No, it's-
cause this is a different individual that's bringing it, I believe.
It's the same thing, but a different individual?
Yeah, and we unfortunately could not finish it because the person withdrew the complaint. I think there was an appetite to work on it, but we couldn't because it was withdrawn.
And without mentioning any names, this is one where we had a couple people from the administration provide us additional information.
Right.
And we have enough different people that I'd like to, my suggestion would be that we get that person
The
back
purchasing
again.
person back.
One was purchasing, but one was the person that works with the road service areas, and we had a huge historical knowledge and the numbers, and this time we'll take careful notes. And it would seem like it'd be a good idea to see if Mr. Strom could be here, so we have a core group to make this decision.
Yeah.
Versus a hit or miss.
Okay, well, why don't we do this? If we can have a meeting in the meantime to clear up all this other stuff, then our next month's meeting should be
This.
fairly empty and we could, you know,
Do this.
deal with that.
I agree. Yeah. That would be
So-
July,
so you-
whatever.
Yeah, so if you wanna schedule a meeting just to finish up these other teacher
So are
gifts
you,
and all of
are
this.
you open for next Wednesday? I am.
And our people, July 7th is the next one?
July 17th.
Oh, 17th, okay.
Oh, my birthday.
I could do the 26th.
Ooh, 26 might be an issue, I could skip it, but I've got an.
I mean,
annual
it doesn't
meeting
have
for
to be
research.
next Wednesday, it
Yeah,
could be
I
the
got
Wednesday after.
Research Development Council,
Yeah.
Wednesday
annual meeting
after,
next week.
I could do the Wednesday, I could do the 3rd, I mean.
Of July.
The holidays doesn't start. till
Holidays the next day.
Yeah, and there's a lot of activity going on the third, so it's up to you, I'm,
3rd works for me.
third, would work for me.
It's fine for me, so.
So can you send us an appointment, and maybe send it to everyone so that
David and,
that would notice Steve and Terry?
This would be at noon again, is that right?
Yeah.
And it'd be only for the disclosures, the various.
Just for, and so it'd be a relatively quick meeting, wouldn't it? Right, if we come in.
Less than an hour,
We should be able to hammer them out.
Okay.
We will have to discuss, but by then we'll have had our meeting with the school
Right.
district, because we do have, there's more than one of the disclosures in there that are, require some discussion.
And then our next meeting, did you say the 17th?
Mhm.
Yes, I've got that.
17th.
Okay, I've got that too. Okay, alright, so the third.
So should we have
I'll
a
be
motion
right
to
back.
continue, NLP 2013 to next?
Until July 17th. So the
Well-
motion is to,
We're continuing this
Continue.
meeting until next Wednesday.
that is correct.
Yeah.
That's two separate issues, right?
Right.
So the first issue is we're gonna continue this meeting until July 3rd. And then,
No, that's not next Wednesday.
I know, we're doing July 3rd.
Oh, we're doing July 3rd rather than next Wednesday.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Oh, for the disclosures.
For this, the continuation
Okay,
of this
yeah.
meeting.
Okay.
Will be July 3rd. Then we're going to continue the notice of potential violation until July 17th.
17th.
Did
Right.
I get that right?
Yes.
Okay, those are the two motions on the table.
Second.
Okay.
Okay.
No objection. We overruled it.
Yeah. No, I wanna make sure that the
Yeah, I
third works.
was
We were kind of
misunderstood.
muddling around, but the
Right.
third works better, I think. Does that work okay for you?
Okay,
Sounded like it.
that's fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I apologize, my bladder was on the clock.
Okay, so what we've done, Mr. Chair, is continue this meeting until July 3rd. And then we've also continued the notice of potential violation until July 17th.
Right. Fortunately, we have some history with that one, so.
Now, will we expect, someone to come and meet us on the 17th? Or do we need to give anybody direction as to who will be coming?
Let me try to determine that
Okay.
before the third,
Okay.
but I would expect to have at least one of the administration, the road service person there.
Okay.
And, have, again, talk to purchasing about their
Okay.
bid program. So I'll take the share of that to try to get
Okay.
what we need to make a decision
Perfect.
then.
It'd be nice
Because
if we
that's one
could
of
get
the
as much as we
problems.
could at
Yeah.
that one meeting, it'll make it more efficient, then we might be able to make a decision.
Right.
That sounds good to me.
Well, thank you for agreeing to meet here a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would just, we keep
Well,
putting
we
this off.
keep,
and-
yeah.
Yeah, let's get it over with and done with.
Yeah, and hopefully it won't be too much longer until we're able to call the herd a little bit.
And, if it's okay with the board, we're off the record, right?
No.
Go ahead,
Go
make
off
a
the
Well,
motion to
make a
adjourn.
motion
Oh,
to
we-
adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Sorry.
Okay, now we're off the record.